What's up, everybody? Well, I got another $667 gaming PC gameplay video for you guys today, and today we're going to check out Forza Horizon 6. Now, I'm probably not actually going to play it today. I just figured I got everything set up. Might as well get the intro real quick and let it download while I sleep, since this one's limited to gigabit, which used to be pretty badass, but now, and for all intents and purposes, it's pretty damn slow. I mean, still better than, I'd still rather have slower that, and for my gaming and ping and all that. I'll always want wired, but I'd rather have two and a quarter freaking gig internet, you know? Either way, I think this should be a decent experience, so long as that CPU doesn't hold us back, which it may, but hopefully we can at least get over 60 FPS. I'm pretty confident we can, especially just at 1080p. Heck, this thing should be able to do 1440p and probably even 4K on this game. It doesn't really seem to be too much of a VRAM hog. Either way, let's hop on in. So, here we go for the first round. I've basically been doing what they say is the recommended and adding ray tracing to it. So, this one wanted to start off on Ultra, so I decided we'd start off with Ultra plus ray tracing. Now, some people like ray tracing, some people don't, but hey, figured try to make everybody happy. So, let's go do a quick bench, and then we'll get some gameplay. So, as far as 60 plus, I knew that wasn't going to happen, but at least it's over a 30 FPS experience, so if all you want is graphics and, you know, ray tracing and all that, and you don't want any upscaling or anything, well, hey, there you go. You can still at least average over 30. There might be some little skips or something that drop you under, but I think you'll be good most of the time. Now let's add a little DLSS to the mix. And as you can plainly see, when you're doing this, you are dancing dangerously close to your maximum memory and video memory. Mostly system memory, but I still didn't have any crashes or anything, but if you play like this and you play for a couple hours, who knows? You might get a crash due to running out of RAM or something like that, or out of video memory. Most of the time, if you run out of RAM, it'll just go into your page file, and it's not that big of a deal. You'll just get some shitty performance. But if you run out of video memory, I think that's it. Your game just says, hey, I'm out, I'm done, peace. So unfortunately, even with DLSS helping us out, now if we would have gone all the way down to like ultra performance, we might have gotten like 65 or something like that, but it would have probably looked pretty poopy since we're only at a base of 1080p. I don't generally like going even under quality. but I figured, I'll try balance since this new one's 4.5 is pretty awesome. Or even if it's 4 is still pretty good too. But alright, let's hop in. So now, let's just turn ray tracing off. We'll do the original recommended settings, which was just Ultra. We'll try it native, we'll try it with upscaling, and I think on this system we'll even try high. I'm pretty sure I did that. If not, I guess I lied, but I'm pretty sure we did, because there sure seems like there's a bunch more files to make voiceovers on after this. But alright, let's get into it. So, there we go. You at least get 60 plus average with the default, or not default, but the recommended settings, which it did also default to. So, it will probably still have hiccups where you drop going through the city at like hundreds of miles an hour and whatnot, but it shouldn't be the worst experience in the world, especially for what this thing costed. But alright, let's get into the game. So now, like I said, we're gonna go ahead and do some upscaling. See if that can get us over 60. I think it can, but not 100%. But all right, let's go hop on into that binge. Well, all right, we average 69 FPS. Nice. But I have a feeling it would still have a spot here and there in the game where you will drop under 60 just for a little bit. It's probably mostly due to the CPU if I had to guess, because it's not always pegged at 100%. But hey, let's go hop into the game and see. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is turn DLAA back on and drop the settings. We'll go down, instead of ultra, let's just try high with ray tracing. Then we'll turn off ray tracing after we get done trying this out with DLSS. And I think that'll be about it. I don't really think we need to go all the way down to medium or anything on this system. And in fact, if we're CPU bottlenecked, that'll just make it worse. But alright, into the game. Well, benchmark, then game. So, we got 66 FPS. So, you can actually do over 60 average with ray tracing if you use the right settings. Now again, I do believe this will drop under 60 sometimes still. It's not a constant 60 everywhere, every time, but I think this is where you start kind of staying above 60 more than you fall under it. But hey, I'm going to go drive around. I think I did some races and stuff. I might have just driven around. I kind of just drove around when I wasn't getting the best FPS in the world, so I guess we'll find out. Let's hop on into the game. Well, alrighty, let's see if DLSS helps us out any. I mean, it probably will a little, but half the time when we're at 1080p, it doesn't really help that much. So I try to avoid using it, but some people still wanted me to test it, so I'm gonna test it. Just because I wouldn't want to really use DLSS most of the time on this kind of system doesn't mean nobody would. Alright though, let's go run a quick benchmark, then we'll get some gameplay. Alright, here's what it got. We got ourselves 74 FPS. Not too awful bad. But why don't we go ahead and drive around for a little bit and see what it's like in actual gameplay. So now let's turn off ray tracing, because ray tracing is, you know, it's kind of heavier on these older GPUs. I mean, the 2070 Super almost can't even use it. which is kind of lame. But it is what it is. Anyway, let's go look at the rest of these settings here. We're spending too much time on just that one screen. All right. Now with that, let's go do that bench and then get some gameplay. So, now we got ourselves 80 FPS, which is plenty for a racing game. Now it still has some hiccups and some stutters and whatnot, but I think that's mostly CPU. Big old open world games like this are gonna be heavy on your CPU. So that is one of the times where I kind of shot myself in the foot. But I mean, this is just made out of old random parts I randomly got handed back after selling a computer to somebody, and then I had to come out and go on eBay, figure out what the parts were worth, and make up a price from that. Other than the GPU, I went and had to buy a couple extra things, but... Alright, enough blabbing. I'd say it's time to jump in and do some gaming. Now we're gonna go ahead and turn on some DLSS. I don't think it really needed it that much, but hey, I'm curious to see if it actually helps out at all. Just went with quality. If I'm gonna use it, I try to not go under quality since I'm already at 1080p. Unless I'm gonna do something really stupid like test out path tracing or something, then I'll usually have to do like ultra performance, which is probably like 360p or something like that. But hey, it can still do it in some games, so it's an option. So we got a whopping 2 extra FPS, so not really worth using. I would probably just use DLAA, but hey, we'll still get ourselves some gameplay anyway, just to make sure it doesn't add like way more stutters. I think they were pretty similar. I think one got like 18 and the other's 23. I'd have to go back and look. But I think the stutter counter is a little overzealous. It counts things no one would perceive as a stutter. It's still being truthful, don't get me wrong, so it's not like I'm hating on it, but it's just overly sensitive, I think.
You all a song that'll give your skills a big old boost. Get what I'm saying? Enjoy. Sub Punk.
Alright, time for some camera recorded gameplay. What's that? What's that? What's that? Is that a thingy? It's a mascot, isn't it? Aw, I wanted some more rain today. On top of a house. Let me up. Let me up. This is not what this car is for. Yeah, I think this one's on like a fucking... There it is, yeah, it's up on that thing. Yeah, I ain't getting that with this. I'm gonna be a pretty fast off-roader, I think. So, with that said, let's go over here. I think that's what I was originally gonna do, and then I got distracted. Not like it takes long to fast travel. Yeah, because everybody's going to say, no, I don't want that Lambo. I want that GT86. Although that GT86 is still a fun car. I still have a shit ton of fun with my Fiero, even though it's slow as shit. Because you can just keep that thing matted to the floor and just go through corners that everyone else can't. Even with that car with its 80 suspension, imagine if I modernized it. That thing would be a monster, which I still plan to do. Anyway. Sitting here waiting for it to start. It's like, dude, you gotta press start now. First corner is almost always destruction derby mode. I don't like crashing into other cars, but at least they're just bots. I don't like lose races to avoid accidentally hitting a real person if I actually have to fight them. Because I don't want them getting all pissed off. Like, oh man, that piece of shit bitch is only won because he pushed me into a tree. What a loser. Although no matter what, if he wins, some people might be sore winner or sore loser. It doesn't really matter. Oh. No way. I would think an S2000 would be able to pull on me. This thing's bone stock and that thing's lighter and has more power, doesn't it? Maybe it's just gearing, I don't know. And it's also a video game, let's be honest. Yeah, like I said, Momentum car, I could just keep it completely matted through here. With some of the faster cars, I had to fucking brake back there. I always forget I have to turn the engine. I probably cannot. No, I didn't think that was nowhere near enough time. We can't go like 130 down to 0 in like 1 second here. Ah, so bad. It's all because I messed up and didn't. We're just gonna go all the way back here and brake like here. I should have brake a little early. I don't have help from lines and stuff. I like to go without the lines. So half the time I lose because of that. Because I don't know the proper spot to brake. Eventually I'll get it, but I still need time with all my cars in the game and stuff to get the hang of it.
cannot do good with that Miata. Even though the Miata is supposed to be like the king of these light momentum cars, I suck ass with that one. I like always like 56. But with this and my Sylvia, I can usually win. Let off a little more than that. Alright, I'll take that win. I beat him pretty bad that time. Doesn't seem like much, but even a couple, like a second or two is a lot of racing. Anyway though, why don't we use this opportunity to wrap the video on up?
Well, alright guys, that's a wrap for Forza Horizon 6 on the $667 computer. And I think it did pretty damn well. About the only things that couldn't get us at least an average of 60 plus was when we tried to do Ultra with ray tracing at native 1080p. That was more like a mid 40 FPS average experience with some drops into the 30s here and there, high 30s too. But then when I started driving around, when it wasn't raining, during a race and all that stuff, even going into the city, at least one of the cities, it wasn't the end of the world, but it would still be, you know, dancing at like 58, 59, 56, something like that in certain spots. And it seems like it's mostly a CPU bottleneck problem. I think the GPU, well, besides the ray tracing, well, ray tracing CPU intensive too, so I think even that should improve theoretically if we upgraded it to like a 10700K. I'd do maybe a 10800K, but I think that maybe that'd be too much for the PSU, since we've also got a 3080, which also kind of is a little thirsty. So, which would probably still be fine, but I think a 10700K would probably be a little better. I don't think that would eat quite as much power as those 10 cores did. We don't really need 10 cores for gaming anyway. We're not going to edit videos or anything on this. But I don't know. Depends on what I find them for. But other than that, we didn't have any crashes or anything at least. But keep in mind, I had to quit every single time to do a benchmark and everything. So it's not like I played consistency for the whole time, even though this probably like a 30-40 minute video or something like that, then, you know, if I played solely through that, that'd be a great test. But since we leave every time, it's kind of an invalid test. So, didn't have any crashing though, so that's at least good. So far, only the Steam Deck OLED had a crash, and the G15 Advantage had some issues. But I think that was mostly Afterburner's fault, but a little bit of the G15 Advantage's fault too. It has to be, because how are we using Afterburner on every other computer and having no problem, right? So I still blame the G15 Advantage too, but at least we were able to get footage on it. Either way, long-ass outro, sorry about that. Time to wrap up so I can move on to the $400 system, which probably won't be as long because it'll probably default that one to high. Either way, peace out. Well, I'd peace out with that hand, but it still don't work quite right. Might not ever, we'll see. But even if that's the case, we've still got to work in left hand, so we can do a left-handed peace out. And until the next video.